What on earth is going on in this picture? Does anyone understand?
So this is the bloodbath of B5RB. It is a Guinness World Record.
Yes, it is.
It is the largest PvP battle that has ever happened in a video game.
Crowd, are you all EVE players? Are you all here just for the seat? Oh, I need more conviction than this. You've dabbled. Dabbled. More than dabbled. I will take more than dabbled. I see. That is why. Well, let's talk about in the beginning, because EVE, he says, adjust in his seat like an old man. EVE's been with us for a very long time, 22 years. So the year 2003, this is before Steam had even launched. So imagine a world with no Steam. I was playing games like Star Wars Galaxies, and I was living for that dream where you would be able to fly a big Star Destroyer ship. And I thought, this is going to be the sci-fi game for me. It didn't quite work out. And then I went on to things like World of Warcraft. I don't think that came to much. What about yourself, Snorri? What were you playing in 2003?
I probably World of Warcraft. I played a lot.
Yeah.
I played Dark before, Dark Age of Camelot, obviously. Ultima Online before that. So I've always been a fan of the MMORPG where there's PvP, there's like a way to kind of bootstrap. So I think EVE Online was an obvious choice for me, but not for those reasons. It's being made in my hometown, Reykjavik. So after university, after my first job, I just thought like I should probably work here. Like so I just applied and I got the job. I was thinking they probably need an analyst. They're making games, they're eating pizza. Like they probably need someone to like think a bit for the future. But I fell for a game called Dust 5 and 4, which was being made when I joined.
Was there a pump for Dust?
Did someone say Dust? Dust was a PlayStation 3 shooter.
Yes.
And I'm primarily an FPS player. I played all of everything since Wolfenstein and before that, even Marathon on my friend's computer. But I fell for Dust, moved to Shanghai, worked on Dust, and came back to work on EVE. And then we started trying to make another shooter inspired by Dust. So it's been a journey, but like my roots have always been hardcore MMO plus FPS. That's my jam.
Very nice. So obviously 22 years ago in his bedroom was young Scott. I imagine a full beard even 22 years ago.
At 15 years old, this was how I looked, just with less wrinkles. But
yeah, it's not penciled on. That is right. So what were you playing all that time?
At 15 years old, I was playing a lot of RuneScape.
Nice.
A lot of RuneScape. And starting my game dev journey in RPG Maker. I was always making games, even as a sprightly young lad.
Nice. Yeah. All right, so obviously, we can skip to the next slide if you want, gents. So let's have a look at Baby Eve. I don't think any of you were around long enough. That is a slide too far. There we go. Yes. It's all right. Thank you, technical assistance. So this is Baby Eve, very similar to what you would have seen about 22 years ago. The DNA is there, but I don't think any of us, even Snorri, will have played this one. This was before your time with the company.
Yeah, this is 97 territory, I think.
Yeah. All right, now we can go to the next slide. And there it is. Things have definitely evolved. Here we go. Here is EVE Online as we know and love it today. What on earth is going on in this picture? Does anyone understand?
This is probably one of the biggest battles, if I'm right.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So this is the bloodbath of B5RB, I think is the right thing, right?
I am impressed that you knew that.
So we try to keep tabs on everything, but this is the most famous and the biggest battle ever played or like fought in EVE. It is a Guinness World Record.
Yes, it is.
It is the largest PvP battle that has ever happened in a video game.
Yes.
So like EVE has certainly come a long way and continues to do so. I've been speaking to the team in Reykjavik about the history of the game, and you've got to imagine that like growing up with EVE, this is before even like esports as we know it and understand it existed. So the community team back in Reykjavik used to post out DVDs of matches. Like that is how long ago, EVE has been with us, before even Twitch itself. So we've been here for a while until it culminates in huge space battles like this. Technical assistance, can we have another slide? Flawless. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So yeah, so EVE, as we know, is made by the players. CCP put some magic sprinkles into space, but really it is a game about player advocacy. We just let the players play. What's it like running a game where the players are just deciding the fate of the universe?
It requires a lot of humility, I think.
Okay.
You have to balance creative direction and kind of where you want to take the game, but you also want to balance it with listening to the community and like respecting their asks, but not necessarily always doing what they want. Our job is to interpret their needs and try to figure out, okay, how can we marry these two concepts together, where we want to take the game and where they want to take the game. But we also have to be very carefully balancing the game. We do that through updates like any other live ops game. But we also have something that was before its time, I think, an elected council of players. So we have a CSM, Council of Stellar Management, it's called, very lofty. But it's a parliament for EVE. It's voted by the players into, I think, it changes, but 7 seats every year. And they have a direct line of communication with us. They propose features. They provide basically asks, requirements, feedback from different communities, because EVE is a huge sandbox with loads of niche communities, like different of sizes. So there's a wormhole group, there is a low faction warfare pirate group, there's a role-playing pirate group, there's a role-playing high-sec group. So it's basically a huge community of communities that all kind of connect through the market, and they connect through corporations. So people, like that's the touch point through a whole game is the market. So everything is player made and everything is delivered by players. All ships, everything is manufactured in one place, resource harvested in another place, and then distributed either through trade, hauling, or the market. So this requires a lot of communication between these communities, but they all have their different needs. Wormholers might want lower taxes, or a common ask is like, why do we have the resources and they don't, or whatever. So we're always balancing this, but also trying to keep in mind that it's supposed to be a realistic universe.
Yeah.
With geological distribution of resources and something surprising. So kind of simulating a real universe as well.
I see. So obviously, as you're saying, you're letting players do what players want to do, that they feel they want out of the game. And we can skip to the next slide for this. Obviously, you gave people free reign, and almost immediately people started being pirates and hassling each other. A fine tradition I find in MMO games. So we have here a picture of one of the bigger pirate factions. We also have an allusion to Deathless, which is a firm fan favorite. We've come to take calling him John Deathless, and maybe that's just too British. What's it like having a player base that is prone to piracy? Like, how do you rein that in so it doesn't upset other players, or do you just let them? Players are going to player.
The natural tendency is to do something cool, something exciting, play out a fantasy. And the fantasy of being a rogue or a villain or a pirate is obviously something that people lean into. There are other non-violent fantasies. There are people who love hauling, who just like being a space trucker. And you can see by the success of simulation games as well, just what are they called? Trucker simulator, or there's a need for simulation as well. So space trucking is one, but being a pirate and killing and ransoming is definitely something that people expected from a space fantasy game. And it's illegal to kill in almost every place, but there are like safe spaces or more safe spaces. But we basically just embrace it. But they also have counter pirate groups that roleplay as kind of government-friendly groups as well.
Well, that brings us on to our next slide, if we may. So, of course, with the rise of pirates, players started forming mercenaries and corps to deal with it. And just, again, you were hands off and we're just letting them live out that dream.
Yeah, they police themselves in some way. But the one thing that we're most concerned about is probably the ganking and griefing of new players. We don't want that kind of gameplay. It's not fun for anyone. So we've clamped down on some of that, but it is one of the myths of EVE that like you kind of need to be killed fairly early to understand that you're gonna die a lot. So it's kind of like the Elden Ring, Dark Souls mythology. You just have to die and get used to it. Just don't have a lot of stuff on you when you die. But this is not something that people expect necessarily. So in every MMO, there's a safety, like level 20 safety or something, where you cannot be killed, and we don't provide that. And that's kind of like a very contentious thing, because you kind of also want the sandbox to regulate and protect as well. So the ideological thing would be to have like vigilantes protect these people, but there's not enough hours in the day, maybe.
So you can be Space Batman if you want to be Space Batman and protect these new players. It's a calling card for you. Let's have a look at the next slide if we can do. So this, if I was smart about it, I would have changed the headline and asked you to guess the name of this Titan. But I think this is my favorite part of EVE altogether. So Titans were introduced to EVE. And if we look at the stats at the bottom there, just gives you a scope of just how big EVE Online has become. So you're talking 2,000 players came together, pooled their resources, started making individual parts to build the ship, taking 8 months. So that's you logging on, doing your dailies, doing a bit of mining, living out your fantasy, but also contributing to building this gigantic ship so that your faction would be the most powerful in the universe.
Yep.
And do you want to guess? Does anyone know how long Steve the Titan lasted for? So Steve the Titan launched in September, was taken to a fight. It lasted a month and a half before players destroyed it.
8 months to build, 8 weeks to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer butterfly. This is the culmination. Like, this is what they do all day, every day, today. Like, this was one of the biggest achievements ever. But in a battle like the Bloodbath, hundreds or thousands of Titans died in that battle, because it is in some way an N+1 game. Like, bring more Titans than they do. But there is a rock, paper, scissors element in these fights as well. So being crafty, you can punch upwards for sure. But a Titan like this, if you imagine just the wealth and resources that went into it, explains why the Guinness World Record is also measured in dollars. It's not just in people fighting, but we calculate the equivalent of the work that went into it into US dollars, which you can. And I can't remember what it was, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So the most expensive battle was $130,000 worth of damages caused
In a single battle. But not pay to win. It's all calculated. No one spent real money on this, but that's the equivalence of the work that went to it. So I hate the word, I hate that it's called Steve. So as a young boy,
I love that it's called Steve.
so I'm a purist on some of the IP stuff. So after reading Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and all that, and Raistlin and all these kind of old RPGs,
Yeah.
I came into World of Warcraft expecting to be just wowed by how cool everything was going to be, and maybe not role playing, but kind of being in character. So my character is called Gimli, of course, a dwarf on a goat. First person, I walk out of Ironforge, and I walk into the woods, and the first person I meet is called Burger King 69, and this just really broke a lot of,
That's my other alias.
So could we skip to the next one? Cheers, pal. Right, so EVE has become, as we were saying, huge space battles all on the same shard, which of course can be very difficult to manage. So can we talk a little bit about the slowing time and taking things down to bullet time? Is that just so everyone can get a chance to punch up?
Yes, so every other MMO is sharded. It just means that you create another server that has a maximum population of maybe 2,000, 3,000 people, and then you go another server. And if you want to play with your friends, you have to go check out, are they playing on plain vanilla or whatever. So you find the server and join them. So EVE is not done that way. EVE is on a single shard. So every person that logs in plays on the same universe at the same time, which means Like, it gives them a lot of freedom. There's 7,000 star systems in the game, 20,000 planets or whatever. It gives a lot of freedom, but when they choose to be all in the same place, it creates a performance problem, which was dealt with in a very ingenious way 10 years, 12 years ago, I think, to slow down time on the server. So that when you enter this time called time dilation, we slow time for everyone, so everyone can get their actions in. From a fairness perspective, you want to be able to, do your damage. So we slow the server time down, and then we resolve everything post fact. So it does play slower, but everything happens, and then it's all like everyone dies at the right time, and all the losses are calculated. But this is unique. This is like no game has ever done this, and this is the only way that we saw fixing or doing this.
Yeah.
Because to run this game, we also have proprietary engine. We have all kinds of platform issues, networking like technology to deal with this, and it's unique. It's a technological marvel in many ways.
Very proud of it. All right, lads. Next slide. Thank you very much. All right. So there are many things to do in EVE Online, but the one that seems to grab the headlines are these absolutely insane calculated espionage plots. You've got people, probably some amongst you here. You strike me as a spy. No, that's what a spy would say. Yeah. So you've got people that will ingratiate themselves for literal years to work their way into the confidence of these factions. And then once they're there, set them up for a fall and empty their guild bank accounts. I mean, we've got a figure there of like 400 billion in-game currency. And that is a few years ago. That title has since been trounced. The espionage and ISK theft just keeps going up and up. How can you ever trust someone playing EVE? How do you begin to make friends and trust them and not be stabbed in the back?
Through a rigorous vetting is one way. It makes it difficult as a new player to join a corporation because there's actually a lot of pre-vetting that happens. So when you apply to prove that you're not a spy, so there's a lot of there's an actual just kind of interrogation when you start. And I actually don't know how you prove anything in this world, but
You've always got to be aware.
there's something that happens, and then they give you more access and more access. We have a lot of controls for directors and CEOs of corporations in our kind of rule set. But eventually, at some point, you have to trust someone to do something. But that's basically, trust is just built through proximity and time spent together, etc. But you'll never know, really.
You never know who's a space snake.
But sometimes it is also a person that just felt betrayed and wasn't an enemy from the beginning, but turned the tables to take revenge. And we think this is fine. It's actually not healthy for the game to just have being dominated by ultra wealthy billionaires, maybe, or trillionaires. So a healthy scalability control happens through this. It doesn't all merge into one single person because there's always a chance of a breakout group or something.
And that's what makes the headlines. All right, chaps, can we have the next one? Thank you very much. So I mean, EVE grabs the headlines, and we've talked enough about there's entire industries of people that don't want to log on and just fight or just mine. There's entire industries that exist within EVE where they're just making ready-made ships and just waiting for huge battles to happen, and then they'll be like, it's time to cash in. So they can fulfill entire orders of, you've lost 100 ships in your fleet, maybe space sheeps, top pocket for now. We've lost entire fleets. Can you help provide this? And so EVE becomes like a second job to some players, which I think is really, really cool. And then I was reading the article here of literally you become a space reporter. You put a few quid behind building a ship. It's probably going to get destroyed, and you fly out to these giant battles just so you can be the person that takes the screenshots and sends them to gaming websites. Might even end up in the Guinness Book of Records that you were the person that took the screenshot of this giant battle happening.
Yeah, a Peter Parker fantasy, I think.
Peter Parker fantasy. If we haven't, We should copyright that.
So this is one way. Journalism. There's a lot of, I don't know if I can't remember if I have a slide on this, but there are people that dedicate their lives to running nuclear fleets, onboarding programs, training programs. They have Discords to bring people in. They have all kinds of career-based programs, like how to become an industrialist, how to become a miner, etc. But there's also hardcore business-minded people who study the market. They predict trends. They apply everything they know from work and what they've learned into just predicting trends, having fun with it. Try to anticipate who's going to war with whom. What are the fleets that they're running? What are the doctors that are running? They have strategists that kind of help them figure out, and then they make bets. They build, exactly like you said, like fleets of things that they anticipate. But they also study the market trends, because the market velocity on the market is enough to be statistically like irrelevant. It looks like a normal stock exchange for loads of things. There's enough volume for commodities to be able to say, like, these trends are the 10-year trend, the 3-year trend, the 5-year trend. They're doing 6-month analysis, 9-month, 12-month, 18-month in front. And they're basically hedging. They're taking bets. Betting on Plex, betting on currency, they're betting on different things. So it's just a real economic simulation they can just treat completely as that. And this is what we do in like what is done in MBA programs and economic programs, is that there is a simulation and people just have a strategy, they have a portfolio strategy, they have a hedge fund strategy that they act out. And then at the end, the professor says, like, this is smart given this, use this kind of tool, but these players are just playing it like real life economies.
All right, thank you very much. Can we have the next slide, fellas? Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. We've talked a lot about the residual cost here. We still keep making headlines. Let's do another skip if we can do, gents. Thank you. Right, okay, so here we go. So here, we can give you perhaps a little time off and move to the eye candy here.
Yes, I am here, not just a nod.
Yeah, you're not just there to look pretty.
Oh, thank you.
Let's talk about a little bit about what it is to own a citadel and indeed a bastion in our games. So what does it mean that you are the territory that's controlling a citadel or a bastion in EVE Online?
Well, I think a lot of what makes EVE Online really interesting, we always talk about the player run and the player driven nature of it. History has taught us, give people some territory and some reasons to fight over it, and they will fight over it. And that is a lot of the late game of EVE Online, and even the universe as a whole is built off this idea of people fighting each other over territory. I think there is economical wars to be fought and a lot of economical reasons in EVE Online to play the game, but fighting over territories and the reasons that you're fighting over territories, sometimes over they didn't pay enough tax. I'm going to invade them now. What was yours is now mine. But without skipping too much context, we are making another game set in the universe of EVE Online that is going to be set within the same universe. It isn't just the ships that are flying around in there. It is boots on the ground, running around and fighting on planets. And bastions are a big part of that in terms of building these structures. They can exist in the universe where the capital ships will be fighting in space, but from these bastions, there'll be jumping off points for troops to be fighting on the ground.
I think that is an excellent segue. Could we have the next slide, please?
Oh, that was the segue, wasn't it?
It's almost the segue.
It's like a rehearse.
There it is. Right. Right. That's right. Take pictures of Dust so you can say that it was acknowledged. Was anyone here playing Dust? I thought, okay, you've come to the right panel. Okay, so eventually Eve wanted to open up New Eden and, as you say, get boots on the ground. Can anyone talk me through, can you talk me through, what it was to start Dust?
So just to clarify, New Eden is the universe. It's the galaxy or the star cluster that everything takes place in. And Dust basically happens on the planets of New Eden, and everything else that happens in EVE Online is in the space in between. Structures are basically built from planetary resources, so there's a connection between that on that level. So Dust basically simulated territory control on planets, It basically was a Battlefield-inspired, Halo-inspired, primarily Battlefield 2142, kind of conquest, capture the flag kind of game modes to say like, okay, we won this territory that has some influence on what's happened in space.
Yes, yes.
So this was on the PlayStation. In retrospective, maybe not a PlayStation 3, maybe didn't like think of the connection, the future compatibility of the connections at that time.
Yeah.
But it was a gamble, let's say. But this has Dust has a real cult following. People love the idea of not just being in another number.
Yeah, yeah.
Game X, Game 7, Game 5, Game 3, 6, COD 8, whatever.
News for those people, because we're working on something, aren't we?
Can we go to the next one, gents? Thank you very much. So yeah, no, Dust has an incredible legacy to it. I mean, when I was lucky enough to get the job at CCP, the first thing they said to me is, the Dust fans are coming for you. They'll want to talk about Dust. And it is still going strong in the Discords and the forums. And it has been a fascinating game to learn about. If you didn't play it, and I know this side of the room has more than this side, I'm watching you this side. So Dust had incredible abilities. Like, it was on PS3, but the way that the servers were set up, like if you had your ship above the planet on the PC playing EVE, you could start talking to the players online on PS3 and they could start requesting like orbital bombardments to drop down.
It was so ahead of its time, you can't just imagine it. So there is something there that like the spirit of that like we have to try.
Yeah.
That like just keeps coming back and back and back. And I know this because I've been working on a version of a shooter for a very long time. Some of them have never seen the light of day, and some of them have lived a short while in the light of day. But we got to keep on trying.
Well, absolutely. So CCP has certainly never forgotten about Dust, and the community is still very much alive and well and telling us about it. Can we do the next one, gents? Thank you very much. Right. So here he is. There's blood in the water.
Yeah.
Go off, King. Go off, King. Can we skip to the next slide so Scott can talk about his...
Nice. I get to ramble about the game I'm working on, which is something I'm very excited about. So EVE Vanguard, we've been working on it. So EVE Vanguard is got to catch my breath, can't get too excited. EVE Vanguard is a in-development, online, multiplayer, first-person shooter set in the EVE universe. We're making it in Unreal Engine 5. So the bleeding edge of modern technology. And what we're really trying to do with this is to kind of make the FPS of our dreams. We want to make really a true MMO. So a lot of games have come very close. Very, very close, annoyingly close. Games like Destiny 2 and PlanetSide 2, but we don't think they've gone far enough. So we want to just truly build, drawing from a lot of experience of games like MMORPGs. You know, I grew up playing RuneScape, probably the small, ugly little brother of MMORPGs. But, you know, games like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, how players play with each other in these large social single spaces, and do that with a gun in your hand in this universe that already has, you know, hundreds of thousands of people already fighting in it for 20 years, right? So when you think about making an FPS game that can exist in that universe, exist amongst all that players, why the F?
Go off, King.
Can I say too? All right, why the wouldn't you want to make that? So that is what we're trying to do here, right? Is we're trying to take this universe that has hundreds of thousands of people in it. I'm going to be honest, don't tell anyone. I don't really like EVE. I've tried. I've tried to play it. I don't really like the spaceship game.
You aren't hitting
I'm
distance.
getting fired after this.
Yeah, yeah.
But the universe is incredible. You know, you hear about these stories, you hear about the Espionage, all the golden, you know, all the Guinness World Records that are broken. So being able to enter that universe in a way that's more familiar to me, in a game that I like to play, and I know a lot of people like to play, stick a gun in my hand and let me kill stuff, that is the type of game that we're trying to make here. And we've been, you know, working away heads down on this for a few years now. We've been doing some public tests. We've gotten a lot of the Dust fans in to play the game, a lot from the EVE community, a lot of people from outside that community as well that want to come on this journey with us, and they've been telling us what parts of the game suck. They have what parts of the game they really like, and it's helping us to make the best game, because you know, I can keep rambling on about this, and I
Literally your job. It's good.
it is literally my job. You want to make the game that you want to make, but at the end of the day, you do have to acknowledge you're not making it for you. If we could make the money that we want to make from this game and keep everyone employed by just making a game for me, that would be perfect. But we want to make a game for the players. We want to take people on that journey. We've been very open with development. The game isn't even in early access yet, and we've run, 9 or 10 public playtests?
Yes, we have.
And we're just taking people on that journey. We're putting grey box prototypes, things held together by blue tack and sellotape, into people's hands and going, what does this feel like? And it's been incredible.
And as you say, very openless. There we go. So I undernowed about putting this one in because it's quite a pull.
Oh, what a claim!
What a claim! What a claim! But it is something that the London team are very much invested in. I cannot stress to you, as a community manager, how much we take in the feedback from community and we run it to Scott, who's developing the game. This is a collaborative process with the community. The feedback that we get from these playtests directly shapes how this is going. So if you were thoroughly invested in Dust and want to see what Dust could look like in a modern day setting, I strongly suggest you get involved with these playtests.
Yeah.
Jump on our Discord and tell us, where people like me and this one read it and make it a reality.
Yeah, we add features into the game. When we first launched our first group of pre-alpha playtests, we were like, oh, I like mining in EVE Online. If this is an EVE Online type game, why haven't you got mining in the game? So we were like, okay, cool. So we rallied around with the designers and we said, how can we add mining in the game that isn't, mining, like in RuneScape, picking away with a pickaxe? How can we make this feel like something 21,000 years in the future? So we spent a few weeks knocking together a quick prototype of a mining laser. And we added that into the game, and we put it in front of the players, and we said, is this what you were thinking of? It was a mixed yes and no, which is what we want, right? We like this, we don't like that, we like this, and we make improvements on those things. It's how we get to not making shit stuff quicker.
I love that. I love that. Can we skip? It might be a series of skips. So Snorri here has already talked about the Council of Stellar Management. Again, to reiterate, CCP literally holds elections where players appoint elected officials to help steer the future of EVE Online. If you are vested in this community, it's not just the developers saying what we like, what we don't like. We directly bring on players to tell us what works and what doesn't work, and they help us shape EVE Online, much as your feedback right now is shaping EVE Vanguard. So it's very much, we try to be a two-way process. Can we do another little skip? I think we're almost at the end. If you don't know about Katya, this was just a nice way to end the show. Katya is a player that took 9 years, built a ship, knowing that it might get blown up, traveled to every single planet in the EVE universe, and it took 9 years. That is how big this game is. Quite an achievement, so much so that they built this giant statue of the character in game, which you can go visit. You can also go visit the wreck of Steve the Titan if you're so inclined, but that seems a little bit morbid. Let's move to the final one and wrap up. Thank you very much, Technical Goblin. I appreciate that. You're good. You're good. This is the one we want. Gentlemen, I think all that's left for me to say is thank you very much. Thank you for flying all the way out here to be here today. Scott, thank you very much for giving up your time.
Not going to thank me from traveling. I had to travel from Guildford today.
All the way from Guildford.
Guildford.
All the way.
Yeah.
Forget Reykjavik. Some of us
I had to go around over a third of the M25 today.
Goodness. And yet, you didn't even have that beard when you started. A round of applause for traveling from Guildford.